happy that I don't only have to talk about my own experience, because I also heard this in Maastricht. The teacher said, we're not sure if we can believe her, but I'm also very happy that a former student of mine agreed to join me and to talk to you about her experiences of choosing her degree a couple of years ago. So I think you will also perhaps see some of things reoccurring, but also get a bit of a different perspective. The way I want to start is actually by a logo that some of you might have discovered in the past, and it's a logo that's actually from the Europe Day. So the idea of Europe is united in diversity. And when I was thinking of how could you best describe European studies today, I think that very much fits. It's a big cohort of a lot of different programs that try to make sense of different things in different ways. They have something in common. They deal with Europe, but they do so in very different ways. What's nice for you is that means there is a lot of choice. What's not so nice for you is that you have to make the choice, and I think the best is to, of course, do that in an informed way. And I hope that the next half hour will help you a bit in thinking of how to best go about that. Before I talk a bit more, I just wanted to see how many of you already know or have a preference for the university and the program that they want to go to. Perhaps just try to raise your hand. Okay, a couple. How many at least already defined the country? Okay, so the rest is still very open and looking for inspiration, I assume. Yes? Okay. When you looked at European studies and how it evolved, at the beginning, so 50 years ago, European studies was very much an area studies degree. Okay? So like people are studying Russia or studying Latin America or studying South Africa, there were people studying Europe. And they did so very often about European culture, European languages, European societies, but it was a much wider field of how you would go about studying Europe. It was also much more multidisciplinary. But as you will learn, or hopefully soon, with the involvement of the European Union, also European studies evolved. And we got much more narrow programs. So we got programs focusing on European law. Political scientists very often focus on European Union politics, of how the European Union works, of how lobbying works, how power is distributed. But you of course also still have cultural and language programs that look at European societies, of how citizenship, how language, how identity is formed in Europe. And again, this means that you can choose broadly, you can choose from a wide variety, but I think it's very important for you to get a sense of what you want and what you will experience in your degree. I thought the main tips that I want to give you is to really ask yourself, why do you want to study European studies? What do you want to study? How do you want to study it? With whom do you want to study it and where? Let me perhaps elaborate a bit on this issue. So the first thing is, why do you want to do a master's degree in European studies? On the one hand, many people say, well, because I want a job later and this degree will help me. So I think it's also important to keep career perspectives in mind. But at the same time, you will spend a year, a very intensive year studying. So it's also very important that you really think of what's your interest. What is really the interest that motivates you? What's the interest that will keep you up at the night and reading and studying and writing? Okay? So I think it's really important for you to figure out what are you interested in. Is it that you're interested in politics? Are you interested in how policies are made, how European countries cooperate? Are you interested in EU politics? Then a degree in law, political science would fit much better. If you're more interested in how European citizenship impacts the identity formation in cross-national contexts. So for example, when I was living in Maastricht, Aachen was not far away. Okay? So how does having a citizenship and not having a border influence people and the way they interact, the way they feel? Okay? Then probably a degree with a strong humanities factor would fit much better. Of course, your motivation will also depend on where you are coming from. And we can blame Europe for a lot, but I think one of the innovations that actually help people to do more flexible degrees is the bachelor-master system. So if you did a bachelor in a totally different field and now want to get a sense for European studies, well then maybe you want to choose a degree that's broad, that looks at different topics. Sometimes a bit on the surface, but covers a wide variety of topics. If you maybe already did a European Studies degree, where you focused a lot on culture and languages, and you know that you would like to work in one of the administrations, either in Brussels or at home, well maybe then a degree that really focuses on EU politics and administrative issues might be much more useful. So I would really suggest to you, take a minute today, just think for yourself, why do you want to do a master in European Studies? What is it that you want to get out of it? That's of course very strongly related to the what. And I think on the one hand it's about the content. Okay? I've already talked about this. You will see that there are programs that are much more disciplinary. Okay? There are programs that focus on one tradition of political science, of law, of history. Okay? But again, there are also programs who on purpose say, oh, we don't want to train you in one discipline, but we want to give you a sense of the different methods that there are in understanding Europe. And again, you then look from different disciplines at a particular topic. You don't get the depth in each discipline that you would get in a specialist degree, but you then get a broader overview and become more of a generalist. It's very difficult to say which one is better. Okay? It's not that one is better than the other, but again, it depends on what you want to get out of your degree. Next to the content of the what, I would also really emphasize, perhaps also check what are the skills that you want to take away. Okay? Lately, with skills, the first thing people say, oh, you mean presentation skills? Yes, professional skills are important, especially in the job market later. But also think more broadly. How much academic skills do you want to gain? Do you want training in statistical methods? Okay? Do you want training in qualitative methods? Especially in case you think of doing a PhD, that might be important during your master degree. At the same time, if you already know that you are not going in the research area, you don't necessarily have to go into academia, but also in the policy sector and think tank areas, well, then maybe other professional skills might be more important. So there are lots of degrees that, for example, offer negotiation skills trainings, public speaking, okay, rhetoric courses, all different kind of skills that you then can use later. Okay? In Maastricht, I very often had people who wanted to go into the area of development. Okay? If you wanted to work in development policy, well, knowing about project management is not a bad idea. It will give you an added value. You don't have to know all the details, but having heard of it and being aware of what would it entail will give you an advantage later on, and better understanding also how it works in practice. So that's the first thing. On the how. When I was in Austria, we had the traditional system. We had lectures, you could go to or not. We had a professor in front, and we mostly were 100, 200, later on 300 students in the room. Okay? You have a couple of lectures per week, but for the rest of the learning, you're very much dependent on your own. Okay? It's fine, there are people who really prefer learning like this. But there are also other ways of learning. That's again what I discovered in Maastricht, but also I know, for example, from many other universities in the Netherlands, in the UK, but also in Belgium, that have a much more interactive way of learning, where you have to work in groups, where you have project work, okay? Where it's more that you do the research yourself and you work in small seminar groups. Okay? If you're interested about the difference, I think you can also talk to Laura, but also to me afterwards. Again, it depends a bit of what you're looking for. I sometimes had students who felt very uncomfortable in the interactive way of learning in Maastricht. They didn't like to work with 15 people. They didn't like to speak in front of the group. Some of them saw it as a challenge and say, okay, you know, I will not try. It's something I have to learn, so we'll see how I can master. Okay? But also some students just said, well, you know, I'm miserable for the last 3 months and it's not for me. Okay? It's also good, then you already learn something about yourself. But it's then important that you choose an environment according to what you feel comfortable with, but also an environment that trains you in a way that is useful for you afterwards, either individually for yourself, you know, for growing as a young person, but also, of course, professionally for your next steps. At the same time, the how also again comes back to this idea of how disciplinary or interdisciplinary is a program. Okay? So really, again, check, is there something, do you like working more generally about a topic? You know, using historic, legal, political science, cultural tools for that? Or do you want really training in one particular discipline? There are pros and cons for both of them. But again, it's important that you match it to what you want to get out of it and why you study. Okay? On the last 2 points, I was always laughing in Maastricht. I always kept telling my students, you know, it's nice that you learn something from me. But actually, if I'm very honest, most of the things that you will take away, you will learn from your peers. You will learn from the other students around you. And I see 2 students of mine in the room, and I think they will confirm that. Also, if I think back, you know, many of my colleagues that I studied with are still my friends. Okay? It's an important network that you make, especially in this intense phase of your master degree, okay? Where you have 1, sometimes 2 years where you study, but you do so very intensely. Okay? So you have to ask yourself, how much of an international setting do you want? Working with other people from other cultures and from other countries can be incredibly irritating. It can be incredibly annoying. Okay? It can also be incredibly joyful. And you learn probably much more than if you stay to your usual circles. Okay? But I think you have to be aware of that. Think of, where do you want to study? Okay? If you want to work in a national administration afterwards, it's not bad to keep the possibility to keep a network up with, you know, possible internship places, with employers. Okay? Geography, of course, matters. Okay? At the same time, you know, if you want to learn a specific language, well, it might make sense then to look for a European Studies degree in the country that you want to learn the language from. Okay? It can be, again, sometimes painful because you have dropped into the situation and now you have to deal with studying in a foreign language. But you know, situations that are uncomfortable for us are most of the time the situations where we learn the most. Okay? So sometimes it can really pay off to think about it. In terms of the with whom and where, also check a bit of what are the extracurricular activities that the different programs offer. Okay? I know many programs offer study trips. Some programs actually have internship or placements, like they call them in the UK, as part of their degree. Others offer, you know, help with finding internships after the degree. Okay? Also check, how's the student body? Okay? Again, an experience that I had from Maastricht. We could organize fun things for our students, but actually our students were much better in organizing fun things for their peers. Okay? So also check a bit, how is the atmosphere at university? How much is there going on extracurricular that you can take away and that you might like to enjoy? Okay? Let me think, did I forget anything? perhaps as a last point, as I was already saying, you will meet a lot of different universities and programs today. Really try for yourself to keep mental notes. I know that paper and pen is not something anymore that people have nowadays. But perhaps really think for yourself, what are the criteria that you're looking for? And try from time to time just to say, okay, how did this university, this program, score on my different criteria? So really try also, to go beyond the PR material that you will get from the universities. Okay? Also really take the opportunity and talk to the people that are here from the different universities. If you're interested in specific issues about the program, ask if they can give you the email address of the program director. Okay? Ask if they have contact details of former students, of alumni, okay, that you can talk to. Perhaps don't quote me that, of course, universities will give you the contact details of the alumni that are happy with the programs. Okay? But nevertheless, I think it gives you a good sense of who are these people, what are they doing now? Is this a direction that I can see myself going into the next years? It also depends a bit of how far away the places that you want to go to study. But if you have the possibility, try to go there before. Some universities offer experience days, for example, where you can go and meet students, see the university. But even if that is not the case, try to just go to the place and see how do you feel there. Okay? Is this a place where you feel, welcome? Is this a place where you see it is international, in case you want to go to an international place? So really also try to make an informed decision by getting as much information as possible. Again, if that is not possible, try to ask people. If you know that you want to go into a certain profession, that you want to go into a certain line of job, then try to talk with people there and ask them, so if I want to do what you do, what would you advise me? What is the best thing that I still need on my CV to go into this direction? Okay? Again, I think also try to find alumni of the different programs. I think they are normally the best source of information. The ones that are just a couple of years after graduation. But sometimes you also have people 10 years after graduation. And I think it's, of course, they have a much different perspective already on their degree. I'll keep it at that. Perhaps just one more bit of self-promotion. But also, I think a very useful tool. In case you want to get an overview of different European Studies degree programs, UOASIS also has a course finder. Okay? And I checked yesterday, just for master degrees, there are 300 entries. Okay? So I think it's a very useful tool where you just can see, again, the different varieties of the different degrees that are offered. In case you don't find the link, you can just, if you Google UOASIS European Studies Course Finder, it's the first link that comes up, so that should work. I will not take more of your time, and I'm very much looking forward to see if Laura's experiences matches a bit of what I was telling you. Thank you.